Good afternoon, everyone. This is Dr. Diggs. It's a beautiful, rainy day out here in the Pacific Northwest, and today we're going to be talking about the upcoming Halloween Rairyuu. Just as a reminder, everyone, if you are planning on purchasing Visior for the upcoming Halloween pulls, make sure you use my affiliate link, dig.gs/coins. It is one of the best ways to support me. Without further ado, let's go ahead and start talking about stats and all of the information pertaining to Halloween Rairyuu. So he is going to be the release of a first new class called Rune Knight. He's actually the same class as Howlet. And the one thing I have to say about Rune Knight right now is Rune Knight is very similar to Red Mage in that it's a little complicated. Same with Spellblades in terms of how to utilize them and how to make sure you have the proper modifiers for your character. We'll be talking about that as we go through his abilities, but keep that in mind, he's definitely not a beginner character. He has access to the subjobs Black Mage and Paladin. Primary weapon is going to be sword, and he also has access to hat, cloths, or clothes, I guess, and accessories. His TMR is probably what you have probably heard him for. It comes with 288 HP, Magic 42, which keep in mind, I do believe this week is the week they're going to be rolling out stat stacking as well. So this is going to give additional magic to whoever has it equipped. Accuracy 8 and critical hit rate 8. What it's mostly known for is the Necromancer change, which grants self-auto revive 20% when it's fully maxed out for himself. And you do actually have to cast it. Now, you could make an entire video talking about how game-changing this is or how amazing this is. I'm not sure it's going to completely rock the meta like people think. I could see it being really good for someone like Ayaka if you put it on her. However, we have had abilities like this and people just turn them off. Most notably, the Paladin ability that lets them avoid death is literally the exact same effect, essentially, as this TMR ability. The only difference is maybe you can put it on a healer so it's more effective. We'll definitely have to wait and see if this TMR does become sort of next level essential like Ziza's TMR. For right now, I'm going to say with the magic up on it, the accuracy up, and the potential to grant auto revive, it's probably going to be up there for Ayaka or people who are deciding to use the Little Leela. His master ability is the first of this type that we've seen. It's going to increase HP 10% for all Earth allies, that does include himself, and it's going to increase Earth attack by 15 for Earth allies as well. And this is also the first time we've seen this. He's going to get slash attack resistance penetration 20 for self. So you are going to notice this as well with Little Leela, is that there are going to be abilities now that are actually going to push through slash attack resistance or magic resistance. Rairyuu himself does have a spirit penetrating attack as well. And so we're going to talk about what all of that means, particularly when we get to different gear sets, because now that we have sort of spirit piercing attacks, you're going to notice that magic resistance is probably going to be a little bit more viable. Now, Rairyuu, being an earth element, is weak to wind and does have 20% resistance to lightning. He has 15% resistance to magic, 5% to missile, 5% to pierce, and then he's weak to slashing and fist. So very strong. He has 50% charm resistance, which if all of you saw my most recent charm video, not many units have this, so it's going to be very good. And when we talk about his stats, he has incredible stats as well. He's the 8th highest HP unit in JP at 2500. Coming down here, his attack is pretty low, and we'll talk about this in a little bit as well, particularly in regards to Paladin sub. And his magic attack power is the 2nd highest magic attack power in JP right now. 301, and he does get an additional 37 magic, and he gets plus magic 20% for himself as well. That comes with a total 58 agility with the +2 from down below. And then we also have to note, he does have the 25th highest luck in the game, coming in at 151 with another luck 65 being added onto this. So he is going to be a little bit viable in evasion comps, and we are going to talk about that as well. Now, thank you so much to Kisang. If those of you guys who don't know him, he is another YouTuber that does give me permission to show off his limit break videos in my character review profiles. He did manage to pull both Little Leela and Rairyuu, so we are going to see the awesome animation here of Rairyuu's LB. It's definitely one of the best ones that I have ever seen. It's nice to have a featured unit with a really cool LB. It makes it worth it. Now, his LB is a 165x modifier attack with a 67% chance to inflict poison at 15x to 25x damage for 3 turns to target. What does that mean? Well, it's essentially equivalent to Venera's TMR. So if you are familiar with how potent that poison is, it is going to be the same poison that is on Rairyuu's limit break. Now, let's talk about his support abilities and counter abilities. There's some really important information in here for all of you to know. Let's talk about Runes of Fierce Soil. It's going to increase Earth attack 25% and decrease wind resistance 5% for self at max. This is really powerful. However, depending on how you're using Rairyuu, this could potentially be useless for you. So, the one thing you're going to have to assume is that Rairyuu is going to be using Earth Elemental attacks. Most of you are probably going to be using this on him, I imagine. However, if some of you are wanting to go Black Mage sub Rairyuu because you want that Spirit penetration for Flare, Flare is not an elemental attack, and so, neither is Drain in that aspect. So if you're looking at subbing Black Mage, you may actually want to turn Runes of Fierce Soil off. Now, he also gets magic power up. I think this is pretty, I would say this is the most underwhelming passive, because he does have access to buffs that really increase his magic ability. Sharp Mind is most likely the ability that you are going to want to place on him. It's going to increase Spirit Penetration 40 for self, and increase Accuracy 20 for self. And Spirit Penetration is interesting to me, because with the Rune Blade sub, or Rune Knight sub, I haven't quite figured out the damage formula yet. So this could, I imagine... it's going to be a tough one. I would say this is probably his most important ability. Now, the question that I do have, which I haven't seen any testing on, is whether or not the defensive capabilities of like a spirit unit will block a magic-based attack that's slashing from a Rune Knight, essentially. So that would be my curiosity of when Spirit procs, if it's a magic-based attack or if it's a magic attack-based attack. I have a feeling it's probably if it's a magic-based attack, but we'll probably want to test this. Either way, it's going to be useful. It's probably going to be what you set all the time. And Blessing of the Holy Knight, survivability, defense 12, HP 12%. I think you're going to be setting this or Runes of Fierce Soil. I think it's just going to depend on how you're building your Rairyuu, because he is a very complex and awesome character that's very versatile. Now, very similar to Orlandeau, actually, he basically has an AP generation counter. So magic conversion is whenever he takes magical damage, he has a 30% chance to increase AP 15% for himself. Pretty powerful. I'm not sure if you're going to be setting this over Paladin Guard. I could see, again, depending on your composition or what enemies are in the meta. I think magic conversion is going to be really good when you're going up against mage comps, particularly in the upcoming arena and guild battle that we're going to be doing. But Paladin Guard in the future might just be more viable for him, and we're not even going to talk about magic counter right now. Now, let's talk about his primary job abilities. Now, Stone Sword, pretty standard lightning killer. Drain Evoke is probably, I would say, one of his most relevant attacks. And it's really important to note here that Drain Evoke is a magic attack modified attack. So notice how it has the magic symbol here and not the earth slashing symbol. It's the only attack in his primary kit that is magic attack based. Now, it does increase his magic 100% for 1 turn, and it increases slash attack resistance penetration 40 for 1 turn on self. So this could be very good, and increasing slash attack resistance penetration is really going to give buffs to all of his weapons here. But even then, or all of his abilities, sorry, even then just having the magic 100% if you are going sub black mage on him is going to be really powerful as well. He also has access to hazard slash, which if anyone has used a soldier with hazard break or anything like that, it's going to be a very powerful AoE technique at 225% modifier that consumes his own HP. Tencho Sword is going to be increased killer against units with float, and Stone Gust Sword is going to be increased lightning killer. Now, an interesting thing here, just to note, is that Hazard Slash, while it sounds like a physical attack, is actually modified by magic, you can see over here. So even though on other characters, Hazard Break might be a physical attack, it's actually modified by magic, earth, and slashing. So when you're thinking about your builds for him, you are going to have to consider what the modifiers are that you're adding on and what abilities you want to turn on and off. This is even more important when you do get to his sub jobs. So as Rune Knight primary sub job, he does have access to Hazard Spell, so it increases magic 50% for 3 turns for self. And one of the things here, sorry, we're going to hop back for just a second. One of the things you'll also notice in his primary kit is he has no way to generate AP. He has no buffing abilities at all in his primary kit. So Hazard Spell is going to be his primary buff if you sub Rune Knight on him. It is going to consume his own HP, increase magic 50% for 3 turns to self. And then he also has Crushing Runes, which is going to decrease earth resistance 38% for 3 turns to target. I would say this is not the worst. However, look at how low cost Hazard Spell is. I have a feeling you're not going to want to go this route unless you either have Ziza's bells that you can put on him, because I feel like he might be struggling with AP a little bit. Now, Sub Paladin is kind of where things get a little complicated as well, because we know he has low physical attack, and all of the attacks from Paladin are modified by physical attack. Now, you could do Sub Paladin for Sentinel, or for Divine Grace, or TP abilities to regenerate AP and to kind of make him tank and survive more. I think that's absolutely viable with him. I think he can be a tank. He does have native defense +6, so that is going to help him in this situation. However, I think Sub Black Mage is probably a little bit better than this. Now, Sub Black Mage is not without its own complications either, right? Because the moment that you decide to go Sub Black Mage, you're looking at modifying magic attack. You are not looking at modifying slash attack. And this becomes a problem because Rairyuu's primary kit is based on slash attack penetration. So all of a sudden you're just bypassing all of that and going straight magic, which is viable if you do build it appropriately, right? And how I think about this is I think about it like Rain, right? If you sub Knight of Grandshell on Rain, he can be very powerful with his Firagas, and you could put him in a magic comp, but you have to make sure that you have the right card set. And what I mean by that is notice that Earth modifies only Stone and Stone right here. Drain and Flare are only modified by magic attack. So if you are going into this and you're like, oh, I'm gonna put, I don't know, Earth magic attack up on him. Keep in mind, his magic ability, think of his support ability that adds Earth attack plus 25%. That's going to be useless here if you're using him to utilize Flare. It might help with the initial Drain HP attack or Evoke Drain, but it's not going to help with Flare. What you're going to need to have is the Spirit Penetration for Flare. So there's a lot of these little nuances, right? Where depending on your VC cards and depending on how you build your Halloween Rairyuu is going to depend on how he performs for you. And you really have to know what you're doing in that regard. Now, let's talk about equipment. He can't equip Uldoa's TMR. He can, however, equip Ziza's bells. You're probably going to see Platinum Robe a lot, and I would suggest Platinum Robe as well. However, I have this feeling we're going to see more Smart Coats coming out. And the reason I'm saying that is with Spirit Penetration, I think magic attack resistance is going to be more viable and more valuable. So I actually think probably the best piece of gear on him for the future is actually potentially a shield smart coat. And I know that's crazy and people are probably losing their mind right now, but if you have spirit penetration, increased spirit is not going to help you as much as magic attack resistance or defense. So you're going to want that magic attack resist. In terms of weapons, here's the thing. I would not encourage you guys to go crazy on a weapon for him. Sleep Blade is coming out, and you could go out and farm the Sleep Blade. However, the Sleep Blade at max magic only gives 126. Nagrabok at max magic gives 89 for vital, 112 for magic. Lazalia Sword gives 92, and I think Excalibur gives 90. Honestly, I'm going to put my Lazalia Sword on until Lohengrin comes out. Now, Lohengrin is made for Rune Knights. It's made for units like Howlet, and it's made for units like Halloween Rairyuu. So, Lohengrin is going to give a magic 162. That is much better than Sleep Blade, much better than Nagrabok, and much better than Lazalia's Sword. So this is going to be the route I'm going to go. I don't mind waiting, and I'm definitely not going to grind out a Sleep Blade +5 with magic attack just for Halloween Rairyuu. If you're out there and you want to do that, you do you. Personally, I'm just going to throw the Lazalia Sword on him and call it good until Lohengrin comes out. Now, besides Ziza's Bells, you can also throw his own TMR on him, which is going to increase his magic 42, which I think is very viable. It's also going to give him accuracy 8, critical hit rate 8. I think it's overall going to be good, particularly with stat stacking. So make sure you keep that in mind. Finally, we're going to talk about cards. And again, this is entirely based on how you decide to gear him. I think putting Moraga on him is a bad idea. And I also think Secret Feelings is a bad idea as well. However, their party abilities, if they're on maybe another party member, could be really good for him. So, things to think about here, right? Because when you put a card on Rairyuu, it's really important that the magic is the primary stat. So we're looking at Rama, we're looking at Horn, we're looking at Shiva, we're looking at Trousseau, because almost all of his attacks are modified by magic. So make sure you have a magic up card on him that also gives magic up to the party. Now, Trousseau should only be on him if you are doing sub Black Mage, right? Because the magic attack modification is only for Drain Evoke and for his sub Black Mage abilities. Rama is the safe card that you could put on him no matter what, because all of his attacks are modified by magic. Shiva, very similarly, would be a very safe card to put on him, just because it's going to give him that evasion and he already has really high luck. Now, similarly with espers, espers are going to depend on how you want to build him, and there's a variety of espers that you can put on him. Personally, I would probably go with Diablos, or I would probably go with a magic esper that has magic up % associated with them. If you don't have an esper with magic up, I would probably go defensive, I would probably go Odin, or I would probably go slash attack up if you're going for the Rune Knight build essentially, or I would go for some type of defensive esper. I hope this wasn't too confusing for all of y'all. Halloween Rairyuu is a very unique unit that is going to be very fun to play with, and I hope all of you guys are ready to pull and have a great Halloween. Thank you so much, everyone, and have a great rest of your day.